Yep, I finally created a second YouTube channel. It's called ZTT Extras and it's linked down below. On that channel, I'm gonna be uploading videos such as a condensed down live stream of me building this PC literally step by step, just in case if you missed the original live stream. If you guys could go subscribe over there, that would mean the world to me. Hopefully you enjoyed that content over there, but more importantly, hopefully you enjoyed this upcoming $900 gaming PC build guide. Let's have a look. Today's video is sponsored by ASRock and specifically their new B550 Taichi Razer Edition motherboard, and oh man, you guys know this is definitely a motherboard that fits my style. The Razer Taichi supports Ryzen's latest 5000 series desktop processors. It's packing a ton of Razer Chroma lighting effects as the name suggests. It also has PCIe 4.0, killer networking with Ethernet and Wi-Fi 6, but most importantly, this super clean aesthetic. This is exactly the motherboard you need if you're putting together a certified baller gaming PC just like I did with my new GPU testing rig, and you can grab one for yourself by visiting that first link down in the description. Alright, so without wasting any precious time, we gotta jump straight into the parts list, and first up is this beautiful case, which I've actually used before, the Be Quiet 500DX Black Edition. Feel free to click in the upper right hand corner to see my other build using this case. That one honestly looks pretty similar to this one, but yeah, big thanks to Be Quiet for sponsoring this build today, so we definitely gotta show them some love. The Pure Base 500DX is rocking a super clean dual mesh design up at the front. There's also some RGB strips in between the mesh as you can see here, and there's even an RGB strip pre-installed at the top of the case to either provide some color like I did, or you could just turn it white to illuminate your gaming PC. I didn't feel the need to put any other RGB products inside this build. I was trying to create a clean, simple, and minimalistic gaming PC here, and to be honest, despite this case costing $100, I actually kind of saved some money because I didn't have to buy any more RGB products. The 500DX did come pre-installed with two 140mm Be Quiet fans, and I actually had a few extra of those laying around the studio, so I figured I would just throw them in this build. Next up, we got some other Be Quiet products in here. Our power supply is the Pure Power 11FM 550 watt, and this is more than enough power than I needed for this build. This one is fully modular, rocking all black cables. Of course, we have some cable extensions on there from Asia Horse, just like every other one of my build guides, and this PSU is also rated tier B on the LTT tier list, so you know it's a good one. Also from Be Quiet, we have the M.2 SSD cooler, the MC1 Pro. I've actually never used one of these before, so I was just excited to try this one out. You definitely don't need to include this in your build if you're copying this, especially with a PCIe Gen 3 SSD like I'm using, but if you want a better aesthetic SSD cooler and to keep those temperatures cooler than stock, this is definitely a pretty nice pickup. And finally, the last thing we have from Be Quiet is this baller CPU cooler. This is the PureRock 2 Black, and I absolutely love this design as it's super simple and clean, which is obviously what I needed for a build like this. You'll see soon in the benchmarking section that our CPU stayed very nice and chilly throughout my testing, and speaking of which, the CPU it's cooling is none other than the Ryzen 5 3600. I actually originally meant to put a Ryzen 5 2600 in this build to make it a little bit more budget friendly, but right before the Thirsty Thursday live stream, I live stream all of my gaming PC builds over on twitch.tv/ZachsTechTurf, by the way, and like I said in the intro, you definitely need to subscribe over to the ZTT Extras channel, that way you can see how I built this PC literally step by step. But yeah, anyways, I completely forgot that the Ryzen 2000 series CPUs don't work with B550, and thankfully I already had a 3600 not being used in the studio. Definitely keep those compatibility charts handy. For RAM, this is yet another sighting of the YOLO 2x8GB kit clocked at 3000 megahertz, and man, I can no longer talk positively about this RAM kit, which is honestly a huge bummer. During the live stream, I discovered that I had a quality control issue. The heatsink on the RAM was off center, and I literally couldn't install the stick into the RAM slot, and I couldn't move the heatsink around so it would fit either. This is actually the second time in a row that I've had a quality control issue with this RAM kit. You guys know I've used this so many times before. It's always one of the cheapest options out there, but you get what you pay for, and I'm starting to see why it's so cheap. Moving on here, we get to the SSD that's cooled by the Be Quiet MC1 Pro that we talked about earlier, and this is just the Western Digital SN750 500GB NVMe drive. This was actually on a great ZTT deal a few weeks ago. Dr. Deals posts all the best PC hardware deals over on our ZTT Discord server, by the way, and for $57, this was definitely a no-brainer pickup for this build. Next up, we have the motherboard, definitely one of the more expensive options in this build, and this is the NZXT N7 B550. Big thanks to NZXT for sending this out. I've wanted this clean AF motherboard to come over to the AM4 side of things for a while now, and it's hard to argue with just how good this board looks. To be honest, you definitely don't need to spend this kind of money on a motherboard, especially with just a standard Ryzen 5 3600 kind of build like I I have here, but you guys know aesthetics is a priority over everything, so I had to fit it in this build guide. And for the last part, we get to the graphics card, and this is just the MSI Ventus GTX 1660 Super, which I picked up on NZXT refurbished for $187. Definitely a killer deal here in 2021, but man, I'm kind of pissed. I actually bought 3 of these, and one of them came to me dead on arrival. If you're following me on Instagram at Zach's Tech Turf, where I'm still running the RTX 3080 Ti giveaway, by the way, you'll already have seen the types of issues that I was having. The first 1660 Super that I put in this build had all sorts of green artifacting with and without the driver installed, so I simply swapped out this one for another Ventus 1660 Super, and it's instantly working 100%. I'm probably not going to return the broken 1660 Super, by the way, because I'm planning an upcoming video where I show you how to fix a bunch of dead GPUs, because I have a huge pile of them over in my inventory room, so make sure you subscribe to the channel for that. With the GPU done, that means our parts list is over, and this is what the final list is looking like. Like I said earlier, you definitely could get similar performance to this build without spending as much money. You could buy a cheaper motherboard, case, power supply, etc., so just keep that in mind if you are trying to copy this build. And speaking of performance, it's time for the benchmarking section. Before testing everything, I finally whipped out the wallet and got a proper Valorant skin for the operator gun. The op god obviously needs to look good while playing and landing the headshots, and in 1080p high, this gaming PC cranked out 225 FPS, and let's see that new gun in action with a little montage.
Sit down. You sit down too? Ooh. Oh, you sit down 3. Oh my god, this skin is amazing. Oh, I can't be stopped. Oh, pentakill? Oh my goodness. I knew he was down there. Peek, 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 peek. I knew he would peek, sucker. Diamond. Diamond. That was a diamond and a half.
Next up, I tested the brand new Outriders, and in 1080p with high settings, I got a solid 78 FPS with the GTX 1660 Super. Assassin's Creed Valhalla was up next, and using the built-in benchmarking tool, I actually couldn't get 60 FPS in 1080p high settings, so I had to drop them down to medium, and with that, I got an incredibly nice 69 FPS. Rogue Company tailed after that, and with the unlocked frame rate hack that I figured out a few weeks ago, in 1080p with high settings, I got an also incredibly nice 169 frames per second. Moving down the benchmarking run, we get to CSGO. Obviously, the Ryzen 5 3600 is going to crush this one, and in 1080p with pro settings, we got 340 FPS. Valheim followed up after that. Thinking about putting a little extra time into this one lately. How many of you are still playing this one, by the way? But yeah, this PC in 1080p with medium settings got 79 frames per second. After that, I tested Borderlands 3, and using the built-in benchmarking tool in 1080p with high settings, I got 67 FPS. Using another built-in benchmarking tool, we have Rainbow Six Siege, and here we could definitely crank the settings up to 1080p Ultra, and I still got 257 FPS. And for the last gaming benchmark, we obviously aren't going to skip out on Fortnite. Actually landed a nice shotgun double kill while benchmarking this one, and in 1080p with pro settings, I got a very solid 265 average FPS. And just like always, we'll end with 3D Mark Times by run, and this $900 Be Quiet sponsored gaming PC cranked out a score of 6,283. Hopefully you all enjoyed that performance. Just gonna assume that you enjoyed the aesthetics, but feel free to click the video that's on the screen now, and that'll give you a similarly priced gaming PC that's honestly a little bit easier to build than this one. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video.